Buried fury, stalking to life from the depths of doom. Welcome back to Entertainment Rebooted. We are doing yet another episode in our continuing series of Cinema Revisited, the classic Universal monster movies. I'm joined, as always, by my esteemed co-host, DJ. Say hi, DJ.
Hello.
Tonight's film was none other than 1942's The Mummy's Tomb. We're going to do a quick recap, then get into the good, the bad, the ugly, the iconic, and then we will try our bestest to rewrite the film if we had to for a modern audience. So stay tuned. DJ, what was the plot of this film?
There was a plot?
It was pretty loose, but I think it was there.
Okay, so the first 20 minutes of the movie is just stock footage from the last one and recapping it. And then the rest of it is the guy from the last guy survived, the mummy survived, gets a little bit of a hard on for killing the family of the people that raided the tomb last time and sends his apprentice to do the dirty work for him. And then so he goes to America to exact revenge on the family and has the mummy do it for him, killing the various members of the family of Steve's family, the protagonist from the last film. His sister, and his friend Babe, and the kids are all on the chopping block, and they go after him, take him down, and one by one killing them all until they discover the mummy and take the mummy down. And the guy gets an exact repeat of the last one. This guy of the secret ancient order gets a little bit too friendly with the female character, tries to kidnap her to make her his wife. Seems to be a common theme with these priesty guys.
It's also a common theme that they end up getting shot.
Yes.
Possibly dying. And then, of course, it must end with a burning house visual.
So that's it. That's the plot of this film, I guess.
It was one of the weaker films, I think, that we've seen recently. It is a direct sequel, though, of The Mummy's Hand, not
Yes.
The Mummy 1933. So
Yeah.
It was nice to see the carryover and actually having the same actors and stuff.
That's one of the things they have been doing a lot with them. They actually carry them all over. Almost every one of them as the sequels now, since the Frankenstein sequel has carried over from the previous film.
Yeah, it has a lot of that vibe of the Frankenstein sequel kind of feel. All right, let's get into it then. What was the good, in your opinion, of this film?
You first.
I have to say that the mummy looked really good in this one. The makeup, the effects, like the makeup effects of the mummy was very well put together. It's very similar to obviously how they did it in The Mummy's Hand, but I mean, you can't really mess with perfection. So it was really nice to have that carryover, and he actually looks a little bit more monstrous than in the last one because according to the story, he was burned and twisted a little bit more due to how the climax of the last film was. So they did a little bit more to like cake him up and make him look more like decomposed. So I have to say that's probably the good, is the makeup.
For me, the good for me was actually the villain guy. He had this like suave demeanor, like he came across very gentlemanly. It reminds me a lot of Dracula from the 1931 Dracula, where he's charismatic. People just kind of because he dresses well, carries himself well. People just let him move about just because of the way he carries himself.
And he's well spoken. All of his lines are delivered very smoothly. He has that. Yeah, he's suave.
He's suave. Yeah. That was the good for him. I really liked him.
All right, how about the bad? Not quite ugly, but bad.
The movie.
Dang it, DJ, you stole my thing again.
The movie.
All right, specify. What about the movie?
It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. It starts out interestingly enough because Steve is giving like a recount of his family history, and then it shows the guy like surviving, like, you know, MacGuffin-y, silly, fine. but it's a good premise there. And then the guy comes to America to kill everybody, and it's just mummy go kill, come back. Mummy go. It's like a fetch quest, and it gets really interesting when Babe comes back. Like it's actually gonna do something with it. And then he's like, there's a scene where Babe comes in, all those reporters, and they're like eating up the story.
Yeah.
And then Babe just like gets murdered, like anticlimactically, like right there. And
In
then
an alley.
And then they don't do anything with. Everybody's just nonchalant about the death. The son like barely cares. There's just like, oh, Dad's dead. Well, shucks. Oh, and he's dead. Well, shucks. Oh, Babe's dead. I don't even gonna mention him.
Oh, Babe, my dad's alcoholic friend who continued to say the same stories that he did. Lessons to learn.
It's just it's weak and it gets boring in parts. It doesn't flow well. It's the whole pacing's off. It's just bad, and then not necessarily ugly. It's just not, especially against the other films we watch. It's just not good.
Yeah. For me, the bad of this film was probably the scene where they discover that it was the mummy. They find like a shred of his his wrappings, and it's bad because it's like it's really good until it's overly played.
It's the MacGuffin in the film. It's literally, hey, this tells us all the scientific data we need to know this is a mummy from this exact century, from this exact tomb, and we're corroborating the story of Babe and your dad like perfectly from this one piece of cloth.
Well, and it's just like, it was really interesting, like as he's going through and he's just like, oh, this mold is growing from blah 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 blah, and he goes and he has like the specific different things that are like, this is in line with embalming fluid, and this is in line with this region. This is where that mold grows. And so it's like really scientific. And I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of interesting. You have a scientist who sounds competent in what he's doing. And then he literally like pulls the thing out and he's like, and do you see this mark here? It's associated with the tomb of Akadama. The tomb from the movie. Who would have thought? And then he goes even farther and he continues to explain how this one like shred of cloth has all of the information they need to know that it is Karis specifically from the stories. I think that's just like, that's
and then he says, we're dealing with the undead. See, there's your proof.
Right. And it would have just been interesting if he had just kind of done the thing where he explains it like, there's no way that this could possibly happen. And then it's like, oh, this is actually kind of in line with what my dad was saying. Is this like in line with this region?
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
They had it, and then they just kept hammering it and even harder. Like, I was waiting for him to go, oh my gosh, your dad was right. But then he kept going. And I'm like, oh, your dad's right. Nope, he keeps going. Oh, your dad's right. Stop talking, doctor guy.
Which should have been like a 2-minute scene turned into like a 7-minute explanation of the exposition.
Yes.
So I would say that that's kind of the bad, because it's played off of like a scene that could have been good if it had just not been as long. So
fair enough.
That was the bad. How about the ugly? What's the thing that, like, when you recommend or talk about this film to somebody, that would just stand out as like, this is the thing that you should not judge the film off of because of how ugly it is?
Gosh, you know, the pacing, all stuff being bad alone, it just makes it rough. I think what stands out that just like cripples the film more than anything is that it copies the first one a little too well. Yeah. The bad guy's weakness immediately becomes, ooh, horny for woman, want woman, take woman. It does the exact same thing that the last guy did. And he sees her, the first time he sees her, I'm thinking, oh, he doesn't want to kill him because he's seeing that they're young and happy, and he's like, oh, I kind of feel bad about this. Nope, he's lusting after the woman and immediately like just starts losing it. And then when it gets down to it, immediately tells Karis, hey, go get the woman for me. And Karis is like, hey, bro, no. I done did this once. Like, you could see in his body language that he protests, and he's like, do it anyway. And we get the exact same thing. Yeah. And he gets, now the moment when he comes up and confronts everybody was interesting, but it's just ruined by the fact that his motivations are exactly the same as his mentor. Like, he just falls and says, like, is this a thing every single one of them falls for? Is this a continuing problem? This is ugly for me. Like, just retread it way too well.
It's in the ritual manual. Step 7, lust for woman. I'm not going to fall for that. Lady in red. I actually agree with you 100%. The ugly for me is like, it is such a rehash of the first film. And I think it's ugly because, one, I think The Mummy's Hand did it better. I think it's a better film overall. But the other thing is that this film would be better if it was just a standalone film. It does lean a lot onto the fact that it's a sequel, and it does play well as a sequel. But if you just had this film stand alone, it could work better if it was just a standalone and there wasn't a better film preceding it that had the exact same plot, that had the exact same.
That might be the best way to explain why it felt so wrong. Because I don't think there was anything necessarily horribly wrong with the way that went. I think a lot of my problems with the pacing and the thing is the fact that it retread the previous film that did a better job of it, and so it just feels grating.
Yeah. So I would say that that's probably the ugly. So what's the iconic? What's the thing that like stands out, and when you talk about this film, you'd be like, yes, this is actually something that makes it worth watching.
So that was The Mummy Coming to America. So one of the things that all these other films have done is they've always come to the monster. Now, the very first one, Dracula, goes to England.
Right.
So it's the monster going out of his element. But Frankenstein, Dracula's daughter.
Well, Dracula's daughter also.
But she goes to where her father was. So she's in the same place that she's following his footsteps. And all three of the Frankensteins, they go to Germany. And all of everybody goes to where the monster is.
Right.
This is back to Dracula, where the monster is the one leaving its element and going to somewhere different. But the difference is Dracula didn't have a previous movie to set him in Transylvania. It was all in that same film. He was always going to England as part of the film. This is the first time in any of the monster films where the monster had one film where they were in one location, and a new film they moved to a completely new location. Like all of the Invisible Man ones are either in the same town or alluded to be, or they don't say where they're at. It's the same family. It's the same line. All of the Frankenstein movies happen in the exact same town.
Of Frankenstein.
Yeah. The Wolfman, the two Wolfman movies are two different places, but they're two completely different Wolfmen.
Right.
This is the same mummy from a previous film moving to a new location. That's new. That's not been done yet. And now it sets the precedence for like some of the modern films. 1999 Mummy, in that one, they're in Egypt. In the sequel, it comes to England. And a lot of monster films that they've taken in more modern times, they've taken these monsters and taken them out of their element. That's normal now, but this is the first time that was done.
Right.
So that's what makes it iconic. It's new. It's different.
You always make this really difficult on me, DJ, because you always tend to have the same things that I want to say. Because yeah, I mean, going to a different.
I'll say the same thing.
Was like, well, yeah, it's.
But you might have different thoughts on it. Go for it.
Well, I mean, it is interesting to see them actually take him not only out of Egypt and the cursed area that he's usually associated with, but putting him where it's actually relatively frightening. Like, you feel a sense of safety, I suppose, in knowing that, oh, the mummy takes place in Egypt. If I never go to Egypt, I never have to worry about a mummy. This mummy got transported here. Like, Mapleton has to be an American town. It seems to be, because they're American explorers in the first film,
and
right?
it also says New England.
Yeah, New England.
They're in America.
Yeah, so now it's like, okay, somebody could bring the mummy here to the United States, and he still is terrifying. He still is capable. He can still do all these different things. So it's like a more mobile monster.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like 100% like iconic, but it does expand what you can do with characters like this.
It is, because Frankenstein never leaves his town. What happened every time? Frankenstein's always terrorizing the same town, and it only becomes a problem when a Frankenstein family member shows up.
You just gotta bar him from showing up.
Yeah,
Man.
right.
You just gotta. Here's money. Stay away.
But that's it. The solution is just don't let a Frankenstein come to your town. Okay. But what if the monster decides to leave? That's not happened yet. It's every time it comes to life, it just terrorizes the town it's from.
Yeah, like the local area.
Yeah, but at some point, it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
At some point, what happens when the thing suddenly decides to go, "Eh, I'm going to go terrorize London today. All Frankenstein had to do was I'm just leaving this town. Bye. Good luck, guys. Sorry, I'm out of here. And he's safe.
Yeah.
That safety goes away, like you said. If he goes, the monster can come too.
Yep.
That changes the dynamic quite a bit.
It also opens up you for more story opportunities and stuff like that. So,
and it opens up the opportunity to have the characters and monsters start to meet each other, which we know is coming in future ones. But how else do you set that up if you can't show, well, these creatures are part of nature, they have an element, they are a force to be reckoned with that exists in one place. Now you can start grouping them together and having,
well, and they could run into each other. They don't have their specific region that they're associated with. They could be anywhere. So yeah, I'd say that's probably a pretty solid, good, bad, ugly, iconic. So let's just say that Universal comes to you, DJ, and they say, we're making a movie and it's a sequel off of The Mummy's Hand. How would you sell this to a modern audience? What are some things that you would do? What rewrites or changes would you make to make this film for a modern audience?
Well, I did done a lot of what they did is have the mummy chase him, because that's what made this interesting, is the fact that he went back to America. He finally fled Egypt. He's done. He had his family. He's had 30 years of peace. Then the mummy shows up again out of nowhere. I'll take a page from the sequel Mummy Returns from the 99 film. Like that film happens 10 years after the original film. They have a house in England. They feel safe there. They go adventuring, but their house is their safety place.
Right.
That's where they go back to recharge, and they feel safe there. Except for the mummy and his minions show up at their house. That is what this film. That's the one thing about this film that really intrigued me, was you had Steve recounting this story to his family in the safety of his home. Like he's smoking a cigar and he's like, yeah, those are the good old days. Isn't that a silly little fun story? And then he gets killed by the very thing that he escaped. I keep that element strong. You have Steve recounting the last movie. I thought that was actually fun. I really enjoyed the part where they rehashed the old film. As cheap as it was a clever way to get the footage across in a way that was compelling. And you talked about this when we were watching it. They took the horror elements, dropped a lot of the comedy, just focused on the horror part of it. That's what I would do. Is I'd stick with the recount the old film, show it, and then have him, but show more time pass before he's killed, because he gets killed really quickly after that. I'd show him being comfortable, like how much he's changed from his time. Show how easy he's become, how comfortable he is going around. He's somebody now in the town. People know his name. He's recognized. Babe maybe even shows up a little sooner before he dies. And there's camaraderie, and they relive the olden days, and then the mummy comes and attacks. And rather than him just unceremoniously stand there and fall over dead, he actually fights the mummy off. Tries to, and still gets killed. That's where I would differentiate the film, is he actually tries to fight back. And then the rest of the film, instead of everybody just waiting to die one by one, the dynamic changes. Now the mummy is hunted, and they're all working together to try to figure out what's going on. And then it gives an intrigue where they all feel violated, because not only is the stories Dad told us real, but our safety, our home where we felt we were safe from this thing, has been violated. And now we have, just like the tomb, they violated the tomb. Now the mummy violates their home. Now they have to feel that fear and cognizance that they weren't having to be aware of before, and then focus hard on that. Otherwise, you can follow in the movie pretty similar to the way things happen. You can have the same characters die, have a little bit of exposition thing where he's exonerated post-mortem, that his stuff isn't crazy, and just go from there. And I would end it with kind of the victory over the mummy being a family affair rather than the entire town. Um, just like burning the dude's house down while he's in it. I'd have them actually fight the mummy on par, and much like the Steve did in the last one, where he fights it in him and but it's the son and Babe are the ones fighting together, and then Babe dies in the fight rather than unceremoniously in an alley. It seemed a little unfair to kill the two main characters from the last one both like that.
Well, in after they had heroically fought and won their fight, like, I understand that we have the satisfaction that they've lived long lives.
Right, and to kill one of them that way, but both of them going down like that just seems unfair.
Yeah.
Let one of them go out with a bang.
Yeah.
That's all I say. All right, your turn.
All right. Universal comes up to me and they say that they're going to remake a sequel to The Mummy's Hand. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pretend that The Mummy's Hand happened the way that it did in real world. So like 1938 was The Mummy's Hand?
Yeah.
All right. 1938's Mummy happened. I'm going to set the film in either 1958 or 1998. So 60 years or 30 years, 20 to 30 years afterwards. So we have somebody who is Steve, who is much older, and he's recounting a tale to not just his kids, but his grandkids, maybe even his great-grandkids.
Oh, you'll make him really old.
Yeah, make him really old. So it sounds like just this crazy...
Sounds less believable.
It sounds like a fairy tale. It sounds like something that he just made up, and it's just like, oh no, Grandpa's lost his mind. He likes scaring kids. He says that every Halloween. He says the same story over and over and over again. And so when he just comes up dead, I'm not even going to show the mummy right away. He just shows up like dead. People are like, oh, he was old, but he died of unnatural causes. He was strangled to death. That's weird. And he's got a gray mark on his neck. It's weird. And I don't know, the window's open. He hated having the windows open. And then it starts becoming a thing where the mummy keeps coming back and going down the line. And Babe comes back for the funeral, and then Babe says that he gets attacked, but he's just crazy old Babe. He's just trying to rile us up. He always riled us up as kids. And then literally he's like hobbling down an alleyway, like lean into a little bit of the comedy where it's like he's old and he's trying to run away from a mummy. And so he comes darting down an alleyway, and then it's just like they look down the alleyway and there's a dark figure shambling out of the darkness, and it's like, oh no, it is a mummy. It's multiple mummies. They're taking over the town. They're claiming it as their own home because we violated their home. And make it kind of that kind of theme where the family has to fight it, and maybe make it more of like a fun action zombie mummy situation.
So 2001's Mummy Returns.
Not quite, but just something.
2002, whenever that movie came out.
Like something different, something a little bit more original. Lean into kind of some of the horror elements and stuff like that. But
I do like the idea of doing more than one mummy. An army of mummies would be really fun, especially if they did like the family. Like you do it like a sleeper film where like all the families are just going pop, 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 disappearing, and suddenly there's an army of mummies in the town. Yeah,
and make it a thing where it's like an ancient order of priests, and one of the priests is like a radical, where he wants to go back to the old ways, and they're like, we haven't gone back to the old ways since your great grandfather. We don't do that anymore. We preserve our history and we preserve our people. And he's like, preserve our history, preserve our people. They're a curse on us, and we put a curse on them. It's about time that we finish the curse. We finish the job. We can't let them just get away with it. They're making a mockery of us.
That's actually really interesting. I like that.
So nice. He's more radicalized, and he gets more of the priests together, and they decide, he made a mockery of the priest because it's in his story, it's in his book, it's in the movie they made off of the book. Something like that.
Gotcha.
And then it's just more high stakes action, more thrills, more chills.
Okay. Fair enough.
And it doesn't end with them. Maybe it does end with them burning down the house, but it is more symbolic, where it's like, you burn down the temple, we burn down your temple, and it cost you your house.
That's that Batman Begins.
Yeah.
Where it's like, last time we met, we were together, you burned down my house and left me for dead.
Yeah.
Returning the favor, like that mentality of, hey, what you did to me, I do to you.
But a little bit different kind of vibe to that, where you end it with that, where it's like, the temple you built off of destroying our temple, you had to sacrifice it to put us to an end.
Got it.
That kind of thing, like lean into that. The curse actually is fulfilled, just not in the way that the radical priest intended it to be fulfilled. The family's still alive, but their home, the thing that was built off of this story, off of this plundering of the tomb, is what's destroyed.
Cool.
Anyway, so that's Good, Bad, Ugly, Iconic, rewrite for the modern audiences. We like to do a little plug before we close, just to let you guys know that we are watching the Universal Classic Monsters box set. Is a DVD box set from Universal that was released for the 100th anniversary. We are not sponsored by them. We're not getting money from it. But if you want to follow along, or you want to see these films for yourself, this is a great way to do it. They've redone all of the films. They've remastered them. They look incredible. They sound incredible. So highly recommend the Universal Classic Monsters box set. We also recommend that you like this video and subscribe for more videos like this. We do these once a month, and we also do new movie reviews, and then we watch bad movies and review them, and we're working on some more stuff down the line as well. While we're working on stuff down the line, please let us know your thoughts in the comments below, not only of this film, but also how we're doing. We're trying to make changes, give you guys the content that you want. We're always open to feedback. Otherwise, we will see you guys in the next one.